My name is Napoleon Bracey. I'm the president of the Pritchett City Council, and due to some technical difficulties, we have another city meeting going on right now during the exact same time. But that's not going to stop us. We're going to move on, with our initiatives, because we definitely think this is something that's going to be very beneficial to not only to the Pritchett community, but to the surrounding neighborhoods and communities in our area. I'm going to introduce a young man to you. I met him about 8 months ago. His name is Professor Lou Principe. Professor Principe was an adjunct professor at a couple of universities in Florida. He's received a Colonel Award in Kentucky, all these magnificent things. But the thing that I was impressed with the most about Professor Principe was that he cared about the same people that I cared about. Those were people that were out there homeless, living on or below the poverty line. He cared about people that was not ordinarily given second chances, people that was maybe tied up in the prison system and couldn't find an opportunity to come out and get a better job. And what we decided to do, we just kind of did some brainstorming. And we decided that maybe we can come up with something to help the people that we care about. Like I said, both of us were caring about the same people. We explored some options. We looked at a program called Life Tech. The Life Tech program is a program that offers opportunity for people to learn different skills, like the skills that we're going to discuss tonight, to be able to go out and get good jobs and compete for better wages. Now, with the Life Tech program, it's set up for people that are newly released prisoners, okay? What we thought about doing was, instead of setting up a program for newly released prisoners, let's try to head off that problem and set up a program for people before they reach that point. Because a lot of times poverty and different things like that will come into play that force people into directions that they ordinarily, would not take. If you're not hungry, you're probably not going to be out here stealing. Or if you don't have these different drug problems, you won't be out committing all of these crimes of robbery or burglary and different things like that. So that's one of the things that we started really looking at, and we looked at the Life Tech program, and we wanted to implement something similar, but also open it as a second chance, second hope kind of situation also, just like the Life Tech program does. But we wanted to definitely open it up and try to make it somewhat to a point where it would be affordable or free to anybody that wants to participate. Because most people that need these skills, they can't afford to get them, or if you have a felony, you can't get financial aid. It's always something in there that's a roadblock to step in the way from people that's trying to progress themselves. And most of those people look just like us. And that's one of the reasons why, I was speaking with him, and I wanted to see if we can do this program. And as I learned a little bit more about him, I learned that he put an option in on a hotel downtown Mobile, the Ramada Inn. And the hotel was kind of having its struggles, wasn't really doing real good business at the time, and he was looking at doing different programs. And before I knew it, he had turned the hotel into a homeless hotel. Homeless people from all over were having an opportunity to have somewhere to stay, somewhere to lay their head comfortable, safe at night, controlled environment. Drug dealers were not able to come in and prey on them, able to clean up, take their baths. And not only that, they was able to learn working skills like working in the front office, being a manager, keeping the pool clean, cleaning up around, doing the housekeeping. So they earned their keep. But it just was an opportunity that they ordinarily would not have had. And what made me fall in love with the program was it was the guy that helped me last year during my last campaign. His name is Mario. When I was speaking with Professor Principe, we went and we started walking and touring the facility, and we walked into the meeting room, and Mario was in there vacuuming. And it just really touched me because I knew the situation with Mario. I knew that his wife had just passed away. She had cancer. She just passed away. And I knew he had a drug problem. And I knew he was homeless. And this was an opportunity that gave Mario that second chance. Now, a lot of times when we get that second chance, we mess it up. but the opportunity was there. And it was real to me. I was able to see it with my eyes. And it was real to me because it was somebody that I knew. You know, it wasn't somebody that, you know, just stood up and said, you know what, they gave me a chance, I saw what happened. No, this was somebody that I knew, and I knew they were down on their luck, and they had an opportunity to redeem themselves and become a successful young man. And he gave him that opportunity. So at this time, and I know I'll be back a little later, I'd like to turn it over to Professor Lou Prince. Thank you. Please give him a hand.
My first name is Lou. Could I sit on this? Okay. I've had a lot of earthly titles in my life. Okay. I'm colonel, honorary colonel, professor, chaplain, police officer. The two most important titles in my life I failed terribly, and that's as a dad and a husband. I been divorced, and my fault because I put work first in my life. I'm from the South. I could relate to you, except my South was a little bit different. I'm from South Brooklyn, called Bensonhurst. Moved to Hollywood, Florida. Became a police officer there. Even had the opportunity being recruited to work undercover with the FBI as a young man. Went into, had more narcotics arrests in a year, working part-time than all the full-time officers together. Went to school, became an adjunct professor at University of North Florida, had gotten into real estate. And it's all about communication skills. It's all about what you know. What I tell people, and I use it a lot at the different seminars we do, is we all have mental handcuffs on. Okay? You only know what you know. People don't know what they don't know. It's a foreign language is foreign until you learn the language. My job when I teach people, and I've been teaching self-image psychology for 42 years, is get them out of their comfort zone. All right? I make people very uncomfortable. If I don't make you uncomfortable, then you're not thinking, and I haven't done my job. 2 weeks ago, I gave a nutrition seminar over at the Chamber of Commerce. And, just holding up a can of Coca-Cola. Just think about this. You drink Coke. Coke is being sold right here. Do you realize that this is the most addicting drug in the United States or in the world? This has phosphoric acid, carbonic acid, 40 grams of sugar. Let's see, that's 10 teaspoons of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. People just don't know sometimes what they don't know. Wall Street Journal ran an article how it causes heart attack and big stomachs. Stop drinking Coke, you'll lose 20 pounds in a month. I'm here to talk about a welding school. As the president of the Council, Napoleon Bracy, had mentioned, we have a lot of problems in this area. Okay? I'm on what's called God's time. And let me explain that to you. I'll be 64 years old this year. 7 years ago, I was given a year to live. Had a heart attack, had lung disease, Bell's palsy, some of that remnant still exists on my face today. I've had 14 operations, back, neck, hip, kneecaps a couple of times. My wife of 21 years told me if the house goes, she goes. And we went to church every week. We went to church all the time and raised the kids up. But we all have addictions. And what made me realize 7 years ago that you ain't taking anything else with you except your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And, if you're a Muslim, you're taking with you your faith in Muhammad. If you're Buddhist, you're taking with you your faith in Buddha. Every religion I've studied, they all believe in a higher supreme being. Number one. Number two, they all believe in loving each other. Then why are we constantly at war with our brothers and sisters? Why has this religious war been going on for centuries? If you look at history, and history, you have to know history in order to know the future. When Caesar went to Gaul, he said Gaul was divided in 3 parts. And then he said, Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. And since that time to now, Satan has still been dividing us. The reason we asked for all the pastors to come tonight is because we need to have all the pastors embrace underneath one umbrella. You know, you need to realize or think about whose kingdom are you building. You know, Pritchard, Mobile greater area, rated number 7 in crime. 7th. It shouldn't have never have gotten this way, but people don't know what to do. I've worked with the Orlando Police Department. I met with the assistant chief. I've worked into the training for the Sanford Police Department outside of Orlando. Okay, but the biggest problem we have in life is egos. People don't want to admit that there might be something more to learn. So what we want to do, especially tonight, is talk about how people are programmed. Your children, your grandchildren, you know, they're my brothers and sisters. We want to be able to change from the ground up. As Napoleon had said, you know, it's the children that we have to work on. You know, we have a couple of colleges that are willing to put in a welding school here. But we need to be able to have the pastors go back to their communities and talk to their parishioners and tell their parishioners, you know, you moms and dads, you need to get your children by the ear and drag them into a meeting to show them that they don't have to be carrying a gun on their lap anymore. They don't have to be dealing in drugs anymore. There's other options available. I started a prison ministry in Florida 7 years ago. You know, only 2% of my people have gone back to prison. And you can look on my website, documented by the state of Florida, their evaluation, 37% increase in knowledge. It's all about social skills. It's all about communication. It's all about understanding each other. And we stopped teaching that in the university system. Why? You're not going to like some of the things I say tonight. Because the university system's nothing but a big business as well. If you're going to become a doctor, an attorney, you know, someone that needs specific education, that's great. But not everyone was made to go to college. Who supports the colleges? It's the Fortune 500 companies. Who goes out on career day in the colleges? What do your professors tell you? And I spoke at several graduating classes, and my favorite 2 questions is this. How many of you would like to make $100,000 a year? All the hands go up. Second question, how many of you are hoping to get $28,000 to $35,000 the first year? All the hands go up. It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction. You know, what we need to do is we can't wait for the government to do anything because the government is growing too big. Why did the South go to war? It really wasn't over slavery. It was afraid the government will get too big. Let me point out just one organization in the government, and you tell me if this makes sense. Food and Drug Administration. You've been programmed. Food and Drug Administration. Well, they go together, don't they? No, they don't. Because the government lets poisonous chemicals go into our food that's causing cancer, that's causing all the diseases, that's causing the high blood pressure, that's causing us to get fat, and they're not educating us. Embalming fluid. Would you put embalming fluid in your food? The United States Food and Drug Administration lets us put embalming fluid in the meat. Put growth hormones. It's not raised naturally anymore. Let's get them as big and fat as possible, as quick as possible. So you're eating that. Your bodies can't digest that. Now you talk about obesity. They know how to control obesity. They stop feeding the cows and the chickens these fat growth hormones. The pigs. I mean, they're naturally raised. They're healthy for you. We were meant to be meat eaters. But we can't digest all the antibiotics and all this other garbage that the FDA gives. But let's see here. We have the FDA makes people sick, the Food Administration, and then you have the Drug Administration that they're inventing drugs to make us healthy. Do you really think it's taken 50 years and they still can't figure out how to stop cancer? Do you think does that make sense to you with all the billions and billions of dollars? Let's look at the prison system. $49 billion. $49 billion a year is spent in the prison system. Over 2.1 million people incarcerated in the United States, in the land of the free. You know, if you ask the average American the difference between apathy and empathy, they'll tell you, I don't know and I don't care. Well, you're going to have to start caring. You know, I'm doing what my president told me to do, is get out and change. And I hope the next time I'm able to talk to people, that I have 1,000 people. As soon as I came to Alabama, January 13th, we did a seminar to raise funds for Penelope House, which is a domestic violence shelter, and also McKimmy Place. It was in the Grand Ballroom at the Holiday Inn in Mobile. And at that time, I asked the crowd, what would you think if we passed a law that said that if we found out that a senator or a congressman was corrupt, be a minimum of 20 years in prison? We had a standing ovation. But no one has done anything about it yet. It's up to us. The greatest power that we have as human beings is the power to embrace somebody and teach somebody for the good. I'd like to introduce to you a young lady I met about a year ago. Her name's April Williams. And April's been the general manager of the shelter. I was able to get that the Ramada Inn downtown with $100, an option contract. The owner at the time thought this was pretty good. He wanted to give back to the city. And we've been having conversations in Montgomery since January 11th or 7th of this year, and we even went up 2 weeks ago. And we've got no one to come alongside of us. But April, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then would you introduce a couple of people that we have as guests as well?
I'm a single mom. I go to school full time. I am a victim of domestic violence several times, not just once. I was at the hotel and I helped Lou and I managed the hotel and the organization and helped to teach them computer skills. And I would tell them that if they wanted to come in, they had to work. You had to be willing to work. And the first question I'd always ask them in the interview is, if I have a job tonight at McDonald's for you, will you go to work? Because I worked 10 years supporting me and my 2 children. And I tell them there's absolutely no reason why, if you want to make it, you can't make it. This is your second chance, and this is the last chance. So take it. So we would get about probably 30% would walk out the door just like that. So, but then we would get them, and they would come in and they'd work, and we trained them on the computers and everything. I made everybody learn everything as much as possible, because I wanted them to be able to go out and know more than just one thing. Some of the time, you get this mainframe that, you know, I'm a welder and all I can ever do for the rest of my life is weld. And they don't understand. There's other opportunities, there's other things that you are capable of doing. But they've been set in their mind for 30 years, I'm a welder and that's all I can ever do again. And you have to help them with their mind. So, and I would just like to introduce 2 of the people that have come into our program and have graduated and are now employed, have jobs, and have learned an awful lot of skills. And first, I'd like to introduce Arthur.
Good evening. How y'all doing? Thank you, April. First to Professor Principe, I want to just thank him for doing a great job for us. And I thank April for letting me come into the program, because at one time there, I thought that it was the last straw for my life. But as I was working as a chef, I found myself getting laid off. Everywhere I turned, oh, we are not hiring. We are not hiring. We are not hiring. I lost my house. I lost my cars. I lost my family. But one thing I didn't lose hope. And there is a lot of people that's out there right today. As I deal with them, the homeless, I'm right there with them. And there are so many homeless people out there that is looking for places that will help them. And a lot of us is just sharing away from them because of that situation. A lot of them is not because of drugs. A lot of them is out there because they lost their jobs. A lot of them is out there because they really need a second chance. And Lou really did that. He did that for me. And I know that as I stand here right today, just this morning, another guy just got blessed by me showing him some things. And they could tell you what 4 or 5 people then got jobs by me being in the program with them. And my main thing is this. Like I was telling Professor on the way here, this program here has to go with the Bible study twice a week. That's what drew me, was the Bible study. And as long as we got people that will push our brothers and sisters that's out there, that's what they're looking for. Help. Someone to just give them just a little bit encouragement to run and stand and don't be weary. So I want to thank you all for helping me. I'm back again. I'm now Chief Steward for MADCOM dive service. And I just got offered an opportunity to go to Kuwait, $700 a day. So, you know, God is good. So if we know God is good, let's show our brothers and sisters, our children, our cousins, or nephews, whoever is out there, that we still love them, but there's someone out there that loves them better than we do. Thank you.
The next person I'd like to introduce is Wanda, and she come a long way because she would not even touch a computer. And I forced her to learn how to do the computer, and she became my totally general manager over the hotel.
I would like to thank April and Mr. Lou. First of all, I would like to say that I'm clean 1 year today. Amen. I just came a long way. It's to me, I'm with Arthur on the deal. We deal with people that's basically on the same level we are. And since the program have been closed, and because I'm still there at the Ramada because I work there, you'd be surprised with people that have came. Now that the program's not there no more, I have people. I had one, like last week, about 5 guys came in at one time. All of them have jobs. All they wanted was somewhere that they can afford to stay. That's all they wanted, you know. So it's basically on the level of just knowing how to help people, what people really need, you know, like you said, the prayer, the Bible study, knowing how to, the skills, everything. That's all it takes. And knowing that, and basically knowing that somebody cares. Because April, I didn't even know her. And every day she'd be knocking on my door, girl, come on here, we got to go here. I was like, what this woman want? She keep bothering me. But it was something to motivate me because it wasn't all about trying to get with your friends, standing on the corner, trying to find out who you're going to do this to, who you're going to rob, and all that. None of that. It was, and I still basically, I'm not doing the bad things, but I still deal with a lot of people. And my whole concern is now, with me working at the motel, making people comfortable when they come. I have actually even had a woman last week, she was, I had been taking care of business for her while she worked in the daytime. So when she got ready to leave, she called me. She was like, well, you know what? I would like to just give you $20 to come up here and help me pack. And I believe she just wanted some conversation. And I got up there with her, and we was talking, and she was like, I just really think you're a real nice, good manager, and I hope they keep you, because the program was closing at the time. And then she said, and you know what? I want to give you these $20 on the honor of knowing that you're a good person. She said, oh, what the heck? I'm going to give you 20 more just because you do. And I'm saying to myself, well, here it is. I'm not jumping in and out of cars. I'm not scheming nobody. This is just a real, honestly, $40 earner. You know, and it's a good feeling. It's just something that a lot of people going through out here in these streets. And I know, and I have a lot of friends that come to me and just ask me all the time, how did you do it? How did you do it? Tell me what it takes. I would like to do the same thing too, because when this time last year, that was the first thing I did. I went to the women's shelter, and I sat in there, and there was a couple of women that had been clean a while, and I said the same thing. How did you do it? Well, I don't think I could do that, but it all, you know, you got to get people together. People got to get together, and everybody got to want the same thing, and everybody got to do it the right way or do it the same way, and it'll happen. It'll happen. But when you got all these people that's against you and trying to put you down and stuff, it's hard to do. But I had decided in my head that there was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to get back with my family, because I lost my family contacts with my kids. Didn't want to be bothered. Grandmother got buried. My grandmother died, got buried, and I wanted to go in and smoke some crack. So I didn't even stay there for a funeral. You know, things like that. All that is in the back of your mind. You might not want to hear it or believe in it. But when you have somebody to sit down like Mr. Principe and April that takes time out and just see what you really want, your personalities. We dealt with so many different personalities and people in and out that program. Some, it worked for some of them, and some of them it didn't work for them. But I can honestly say it did work for me. It did. Thank
you. The average age of a homeless person in the United States is 8 years old and under. It's a mom with 2 single kids. I'd like you to go back to your churches. There's a building we've identified. Some of you may know it. It's called the Siemens Building. The city of Mobile has it up for sale. I'm going to go ahead, if the pastors get together and want to support it, I'm going to offer the city $10 a year and lease it. It only took Arthur 4 days being out of homelessness to get cleaned up, had a stable phone number, had clean sheets and a bed to sleep in. 4 days he was given a job offer, and he made a commitment. He didn't know how he was going to get there, but he had to show up in Louisiana. And he got there. And he's been working since. We need to be able to come together and tell the government what to do. How did we as American citizens ever let 535 people, the people in the Senate and Congress, control 30 million people? Does that make sense to you? You know, does it make sense that if you're a general in Iraq, and I have all the documentation that I'll share with you, a former general in Iraq is teaching terrorists how to make chemical warfare, how to make chemical bombs, and getting paid for it in a state university? I mean, the things that go on that the American public's not aware of. You know, it's up to each one of us to start looking. Start realizing a lot of people in prison are in prison, especially in a lot of the southern states, because they smoked a joint of marijuana. Go check the congressional record in the early 1900s. They didn't have the communication system like we have today. Oh yeah, let's see now. Liquor becomes legal. Prohibition, if you had a beer, you'd be arrested and thrown in jail back in what, 1910, thereabouts? But then the liquor industry took over, and then some congressman went up there and said, man, we got those Mexicans coming in from Mexico, and they're smoking grass, and they're going to be raping the white woman. And then according to the congressional record, oh, those black people, they smoke marijuana. Let's go ahead and have a law against marijuana. And now that's in 1920, and now 90 years later, they're approving a drug called Meridol, which is the synthetic for marijuana, and telling children that you should use it, and telling parents, but now you have to go to the doctor. 18.7% of the money spent in the United States is over medicine and doctors and hospitals. They're fighting the wrong battles in Congress. You know why? Because they're trying to confuse people. And if you keep people busy creating wars where millions and millions and billions of dollars are made, you don't see who all's getting rich. My son was in the military. My son suffers seizures today. There are sons that have not come back from the military. We as Americans need to be telling Congress and senators. Congress and senators aren't even listening to our generals. President Eisenhower, check the record, back in 1950 said there's no guarantee that the United States would last forever. And we're seeing all the corruption. Are you familiar with BIC? You don't know, you never heard about BIC. Go on the internet. Brazil, India, and China formed an alliance to take over the world years ago. They have 40% of the population and 40% of the land mass. There are things happening. Read a book called Plutarch's Lives. Plutarch was a writer from 2,000 years ago. He wrote about Socrates and Aristotle. Nothing's changed. Those in power keep the people so busy putting food on the table that they don't have time to get involved in government. Well, you know, if you don't believe in the United States, then I could see why you're not taking action. Our school system, I'm 64 years old. We used to do Pledge of Allegiance all the time. We used to talk about politics. We used to talk about miracles that have happened in history. We used to be able to pray in our schools. How did we ever let one or two people change all of that? This is the land of the free. And you know, unfortunately, most of us are in slavery regardless of the color of the skin. We're in mental slavery. Just like a crab. You put a crab in water and put it on the stove, you put it in hot water, that crab's going to jump out. But you know, we've all been conditioned. Just like the crab. The water's cool, crab's happy. Turn the gas up a little bit, still happy, a little bit warm. Pretty soon that crab's dead. And my brothers and sisters, that's going to happen to the United States. I've talked to a lot of politicians over the past couple of years. Matter of fact, Brother Bracy, Napoleon Bracy and I went to New Orleans last couple of days ago. Talked to a politician there, helping this young lady as well. You know, we do this as a volunteer. I don't make any money doing this. I don't charge anyone a penny. As a consultant, I was making $2,000 a day. That wasn't enough, so I started getting government grants to universities and got $250,000 in 90 days. Our government's just kind of writing out checks. And the friends in government, friends of politicians, and want to get their friends involved. Why do we have in the prison system a prisoner still has to make a collect call to his family and get charged $15, and then the family gets charged, it has to be a collect call, and the family gets charged, what, 30 to 50 cents a minute? There's a company in Florida that before a prisoner goes to a hospital, that you have to call this company and they tell you which hospital to go to, and they make millions and millions of dollars. You know, I'll tell you, you need to be inviting your friends. I'll be more than happy to talk to any civic group. What we're trying to do here in Pritchard as well is have an aftercare program for children. When I first got to Mobile, I went on a couple of radio stations, and it's exactly what I said. This isn't part of the United States. There's no place else in the United States that would let 56% of their children drop out from 8th grade, not go on to high school. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to you. We're confusing activity with accomplishment. I'm grateful to have the opportunity of being here. I want to thank you because you could be home with your families. But I hope you go back and spread the message that we want to put a welding school here. We want to put an aftercare program in here. Councilman Bracy has already identified a school that we could use. We've already talked to a member of the school board about it. All we have to do is pay the liability insurance. And we could bring employment to the greater Mobile area. Are you aware of the history here? I want to do a reenactment of a slave auction. I want to do a reenactment of Kojo Lewis. You know, this land we're standing on right now is the first black city in the United States. This is so rich in black history. And people don't even know it. There's the first black doctor, the first black pharmacist, the first black funeral director. I mean, this is where the slaves were. They were being bought for $10 in Africa and being dropped off here and being sold at the slave market right here for $100. Shouldn't our children see that? Shouldn't they be proud of the heritage? They don't know the heritage. No one's telling them that. When I saw my cousin that I didn't see in years, the only thing he asked me, what have you done with our family name? And I told him I honored it. Actually, my first legal name is Casper. It's been a name in my family for years. It's named after St. Casper of Italy. And I didn't know that. But I found out about 5 years ago. He too worked with the homeless people and the people that were in prison. I love you, brothers. Before I turn the rest of the time over to President Bracy, Pastor, may I ask you to stand up and share your comments about the meeting tonight? Good, bad, or indifferent. This is a pastor from Mount Hebron Church, one of the largest churches in the Mobile area.
Thank you, Luke.
I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Pastor.
I'm somewhat disappointed about the turnout, number one. Gardner, you sent out over 100 invitations, but it's sometimes indicative of the response that we get from churches in this area. And so it's disappointing, but not totally shocked that the pastors aren't here. And that's one of the primary reasons that this community is in the shape that it's in. As a pastor and as a minister of God, I know that the church should be at the forefront of everything that goes on in the city. And we are really the hope of this city, the churches. It's our responsibility. And so, because I know of his work, because I met him a few months ago, we got started downtown, and our church has been involved in helping him in certain areas. Has a vision. Every city needs a visionary. And the vision has to come from God. And if you can see the hand of God in the vision, then you should want to be a part of it. I don't know how many pastors are here tonight, but I do believe that there is a richness in this city that has been kind of covered up and pushed to the side. There's too much of a negativity has come forth. This is what we hear about on a daily basis. My job, I'm in the midst of the prison system, the juvenile system, the school system every day. That's what I do. Families. And I know that there's such a need just for wellness. I wailed for about 15 years, so I know you can make good money doing it. When I know that this area is rich in shipbuilding and other fabrication and all this is a prime target for that kind of skill to manifest. And so those of you that are here tonight, if you see the value of this, we got to be the spokesman for things that come into this city of this nature. In talking to this brother right here, and he can talk, and brother can hold a conversation. He can go in a lot of different directions with his conversation. But I believe that he has something in his heart to share with us. And this job market here, it needs to be enhanced. I deal with a lot of juveniles who have no hope of going to college. And when I tell them that I used to weld, they don't believe. But you can make very good money welding, learning how to fabricate steel. It's a very profitable business. There are a lot of young people in this city who are talented enough to have their own fabrication shops.
And I tell people I'm a former police officer and I'm going to do a background check. They get up and run out because they're wanted. We're feeding felons in these different shelters. We're housing felons that are wanted, that are murderers, that are bank robbers. We need to be able to have a state ID or a county ID on everybody before you're allowed in a shelter. They could just pick up the phone, run an NCIC check with the local sheriff's department, so you know for the safety of the other people in your shelter. This isn't the first time I've had a ministry. I had the SWAT team and the FBI knock on my door about 8 o'clock over in Sanford. We were housing a lot of people, and they were looking for a particular lady that the jail had let out, and I had picked up and housed her because she was wanted for a triple murder. Okay, but we're feeding people, and you wonder why the crime rate is high. When I met with the assistant chief in Orlando, very simple, with her and the captains, it's like you have so many repeat offenders, you know who your violent reoffenders are, you can't wait for the probation officer to go check on them. Assign a special detail. Knock on their home every night. Follow them. Curb the crime. Crime rate drop in certain areas of the city. Miscommunication. You know, I've taught communication and self-image psychology and motivation for 42 years. And you know, we need to start teaching it more in the university system. April and I have had 6 different meetings with various educational institutions. My favorite questions to the instructors or the moderator: could any of you teachers from K all the way up to Auburn or to university level, could any of you teachers identify a child's learning style, listening style, or personality style? And they say no. If you can't identify that, then how are you going to reach somebody? But Pastor, all we need is volunteers. All we need is help. I'm creative. I'm a guy that does it. I've had more Harvard MBAs hire me. They're CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They've hired me because I have an objective set of eyes. You've all heard the term, you can't see the forest from the trees. You're too close to the problem. And I want to tell all of you, and I'm very, very transparent. Number one, to me, a definition of a lie is any communication to deceive, even omission. Okay, yeah, they gave me a title of adjunct professor. I had my own institute at the University of Central Florida and the University of North Florida. I was the real estate school permit holder for the University of Central Florida. I had my own institute of motivation and education. I was teaching and hiring college professors. I was on search committees. And I don't have a college degree. I graduated second from the bottom of my class in high school. The scriptures talk about us guys with the gray hair. It's experience. Actually, we just got the letter today and got registered to ask for public funds. I'm in a private foundation. I'm in funding. But what I'm looking for is the churches to come together. Not me, but have the churches come together. I'm kind of like the orchestra leader maybe, just saying, hey guys, here's the idea. Someone, as the pastor said, someone had to see the George Washington Bridge before it was built. You have to have a vision. And I am a visionary. I used to go in and guarantee companies to increase their sales and not get paid. And I'm talking about IBM, AT&T, Bell South. A lot of these major corporations have hired me, and been on search committees for professors. And even the professors, they're brilliant. But the first thing most of the professors ask in an interview, what are my benefits? How many days off do I have? If they weren't programmed to work for the government for $60,000 or $70,000 a year, 47% of the population in the United States works for the government. and they don't think it's a socialist state. We, the rest of us, pay their insurance. A congressman and senior congressman only has to work for 4 years at $265,000 a year salary, and then we have to pay his salary and insurance for the rest of his life. Did you know that a congressman is allowed to get more in mileage going to the VA hospital than one of our soldiers who's on the battlefield? They get less mileage. It doesn't make sense. There's no upper rule in the United States. That wasn't meant to be. But, you know, it's for us to start declaring war. And we're at fault.